Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this service of worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson. My name is Celeste Rogers, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Our speaker today is Reverend Matthew Funk Crary, who is with us as part of what we fondly call our Pulpit Palooza. Our settled minister, Reverend Bethany, is speaking at Sky Island Unitarian Universalist Church this morning, and Pastor Jamili is at Borderlands UU. Reverend Matthew served as minister at Borderlands UU for several years and is now the settled minister at Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Many of us got to know Reverend Matthew during the height of the COVID pandemic when the Baja 4 congregations were meeting online. Please give Reverend Matthew a warm UUCT welcome. This service today is a memorial based on Vietnamese Zen Buddhist master and international peace leader Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching of death, grief, and living. I have one announcement today. The Share the Plate nomination forms are coming due soon. Please turn them into the box in the Welcome Center. For any questions, you can ask Carolyn Valdez. Also, unfortunately, Brian Moon, our music director, will not be with us today because he damaged his ACL. So he is taking care of himself, and I will be leading you in the hymns. Because of the progress our country has made in fighting the virus, we no longer require that masks be worn in worship and concurrent religious education. You, of course, are still welcome to wear a mask, but it is no longer required. However, if you are feeling sick, we encourage you to wear a mask or join us online at home. UUCT members are committed to being fully vaccinated and boosted, and for all of our sakes, especially those most vulnerable, please let's maintain that commitment. I extend a special welcome to visitors and invite you to fill out a guest information card, which will be posted in the YouTube chat right now. There are also clipboards with yellow paper that you can fill out if you are here with us in person at the Welcome Center in the back corner of the room where Beth is. We will meet for social hour after the service right here in Goddard. There will be coffee, iced tea, lemonade, and some snacks, and of course, good company. If you need to use the bathroom, the facilities you are familiar with in Holland are still available through the doors off the patio, although it is quite warm in there. We also have 2 bathrooms here through the door to your left, down the hallway, and the first left. As we prepare to enter the sacred space of worship, let us remember that our community strives to become as varied as the blooms of the Sonoran Desert, so that we may better reflect the wonderful diversity with which Southern Arizona is blessed. However you participate in this service, whether here in person or from afar, we welcome you. Whoever you are, whoever you have been, and whoever you are becoming, I invite you to bring your whole self here now.
Thank you for that. That was wonderful. Yeah. At this moment across town, my congregation is also beginning its Sunday service. And we are, like you and all the other Baja 4 congregations this month, joining in the theme of grief and grieving. And we don't have to do this, of course, with such a heavy sense of loss that it sends people out of the building. We do it instead as a congregation and individuals who are very aware of the grief, not only in our lives, but of course the grief occurring at this moment in our world. Regardless, I hope you are having a good day. A good day right this moment, when and wherever that you are. Whatever your location, whether it's here in person, Zooming in, or viewing a recording much later, I want to invite you to begin our service that is a memorial and a teaching about our grieving with a mudra. These have been shared with me by teachers who say they're like yoga for your hands. It's alive in both Hindu and Buddhist faiths. They're movements and a position of your hands that bring them into a spiritual focus for this moment. Now, you've witnessed mudras, even if it's a new thing to you just this morning, all the time. You've witnessed them when you have looked at images like the Buddha that's on the altar today. You've looked at them every time someone comes to you and puts their hands together and says, Namaste. Namaste. The light in me bows to the light in you. The mudra I'd like to teach you this morning is called the Lotus Mudra. And it begins, if you would like to join me, in just putting your palms together about the height of your heart, and then warming them up gently, just feeling your own skin and the heat of your own body. And as you will, just settle them into one position comfortably in front of your heart. And then we're going to blossom by keeping our pinkies and our thumbs together, so there's a little gymnastics here, and then just blossoming open. This signifies an open heart to receive the love and the joy and the compassion of the universe as taught in the Dharma, in the teachings of the Buddha. Now, I'll be using this mudra during this service this morning at moments when I feel a welcoming within the words or the music or even in the silence that we will share. I'll also be using it during moments when I feel uncomfortable, upset, or unsettled by my own thoughts and my own feelings, using the Lotus Mudra to return to myself. It's wonderful to be with you this morning. Thank you so much for your warm greeting. Let us worship together.
Our chalice lighting words today, to carry the light forward, are by Reverend Greg Ward. I will read several segments of this chalice lighting first. When you see Reverend Matthew light the chalice, you will then join in the words that are projected on the screen. If we are lucky, we will get a chance during our life to know someone who becomes for us an exemplar of living. And if we are really lucky, we will recognize how they ended up passing on some of their goodness to us. if we are lucky. But one thing is certain, no one, not one of us entering this world can escape the cost of living. The price we pay is this: to live in this world, we must accept that someday we will have to die. To love what is alive, we must accept having to lose what we've made precious through our care. To be fully and fiercely human, we must accept having to be breakable and sometimes broken. When we stop to notice how their life gave us a path and a little light to see by, it helps encourage us to help carry that light forward. In this world, a small flame, we know that the ability of that light to brighten the world depends upon the many others who learn to walk with it in their hearts. We light this chalice today to honor the life and living of a truly bright light, Thich Nhat Hanh. Danielle will play through the tune to this next song. It's called Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves. Some of you may know it, but she's going to play it through once. I will sing it through once, and then we will sing it together as a congregation. And you may stay seated for this.
This is kind of neat with this up and down and we were working out some of the logistics earlier, but this is kind of fun. I invite you now to a time of contemplation, of considering and pondering the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh's Buddhist beliefs on grief and loss. It's no surprise. Death is a scary thing. Now, it's frightening to some because we really don't understand what happens to the thoughts and the feelings and the personality, the essence, the soul, after someone's body dies. And of course, it can be frightening to others because some have a belief that something awful happens to you after death. And others fear it simply because it hurts to lose someone. We feel the grief, we feel heartache, simply because we miss them. And of course, all of it's natural. Our beliefs and our feelings, this is how we are human. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen Buddhist master from Vietnam, shared that it is also human to not be afraid. and that through our grief, we can come to know how very much we love someone. Thich Nhat Hanh died on January 22nd, 2022. During his 95 years, he was a teacher and an activist of love and of peace in the world. And many of you know his writings, his speaking, his presence. With his insight and his wisdom, he sought to prepare everyone with his own death. He had a student who wanted to build a big domed shrine, a stupa, for his teacher's ashes. Now, Thich, which is the name many lovingly called him, said that this student wanted a plaque with the words, "Here lies my beloved teacher," on the stupa. I told him not to waste the temple land, said Thich. I suggested that if they insist on building a stupa, that they have a plaque that says, "I am not here." But in case people don't get it, they could add a second plaque. "I'm not out there either." And if people still don't understand, then you can write on a third and last plaque, "I may be found in your way of breathing and walking." In his teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh, Thich wanted us to be alive with him, not dead with him. And this is how he taught us to be alive and aware. If you live without awareness, it is the same as being dead, he once taught. Many of us live like dead people because we live without awareness. We carry our dead bodies with us and circulate throughout the world. We are pulled into the past, or we are pulled into the future, or we are caught by our projects of our despair and anger. We are not truly alive. We are not inhabited by awareness of the miracle of being alive. Now, you know he wasn't talking about undead zombies. There's no evidence he ever saw such a horror movie. Instead, what he meant is that we are alive when we don't allow the past or the future to pull us away from the present. The miracle of being alive in this moment. This very moment with all that life and our universe offers. And he showed us how to be alive in everything that we do, from washing the dishes to engaging in social or environmental action. Thich taught us how to always be aware of ourselves, awake to our interdependence, and engaged in life. Think of that. We can be aware, alive, and with all of those who have died in this moment, here, together. No matter where or when that we are participating, we can be aware and awake and alive and blossom with all that the universe, that the world, that our community, that our bodies and our minds and our hearts and our spirits, that they bring to us now.
Our earth is strong. It can hold our pain and our joy, our love and our anger. Our shared bowl, which we use for joys and concerns each week, is strong enough to hold the big rocks, our collective celebrations and mournings, and also the smaller stones that will be added to signify our individual joys and sorrows. My heart has been full of sorrow since the massacre by Hamas of at least 1,400 Israelis, including 260 young people attending a music festival for peace. Unarmed civilian hostages and captured Israeli soldiers were taken to the Gaza Strip, including women and children. The ongoing tragedy continues in Gaza, where thousands of innocent civilians, including over 1,000 children, have been killed in retaliatory bombings of cities. And a blockade is preventing food, water, and humanitarian aid from reaching the Gazan people and preventing them from escaping the war. My heart also aches for several friends and members of this church who are dealing with illness, injury, loss, and difficult life choices. We who live in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining and scarce resource. Let us remember those who are walking through our desert right now without access to water. We pour water from a plastic jug similar to the ones used by those seeking to assure greater access to water in the desert, like our ministry partner, No More Deaths. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, I invite you to go to menti.com and put in the code 5576-1344. If you are here in person, you are welcome to come up to the table and put a stone in the water to symbolize your joy or sorrow. The pebbles create ripples of hope. If you're coming to place a stone in the bowl, please form a line coming down the center aisle and then return to your seat via the side aisles. Thank you. Thinking of Judy Dare and her family. Judy is on home hospice currently. She welcomes cards, but no visits, please. I said goodbye to my cat Tortilla this week. She was a beloved companion. I'm grateful for my acceptance into nursing school, which will give me the skills to better serve my family and community. Joy for us all in our shared here and now. I feel for the millions of Palestinians that have been under apartheid and occupation for 70 plus years. I am disgusted that the US government is funding and endorsing genocide. Amen. Gratitude today as I realize how abundantly blessed I am with food, shelter, safety, love, and companionship, praying for others. I take joy that in my disease I live a healthy and active life, but sorrow that so many of us do not.
Holding in our individual hearts, holding among us as a community of faith, all that has been shared, each and every joy, each and every sorrow, all that has been named, and all that remains unspoken here among us, in our hearts, no matter how far away. Know that it is embraced in the spirit of this congregation. In a moment, we will share in a time of silent prayer. And to enter into this time together, I will invite you to listen to the ringing of the bell. One can always mark the beginning of the bell. When does it stop ringing? Does it ever end? Is it always present with us, just like our joys and our sorrows? Let us share in such a brief time of silence, brief in the length of our days, but so important to hold one another at this moment.
now sing a line, and I would like you to sing that line after me. Kwan se an bo sai, 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 Kwan se an bo sai. Kwan se an bo, Kwan se an bo. We're going to sing it one more time. Kwan se an bo sai, 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 Kwan se an bo, Kwan se an bo. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, share its message. If its values resonate deep within you, give it a measure of your devotion. This church cannot survive without your faith, your confidence, your enthusiasm, or your resources. The offering will now be generously given and most gratefully received. If you are joining us on live stream, you can send a check to the office, give online at uuctucson.org/donate, or text 833-361-5796. If you are here in person, the ushers will come around now with the offering baskets to collect your donations. Thank you. The Good News by Thich Nhat Hanh. They don't publish the good news. The good news is published by us. We have a special edition every moment, and we need you to read it. The good news is that you are alive, and the linden tree is still there, standing firm in the harsh winter. The good news is that you have wonderful eyes to touch the blue sky. The good news is that your child is there before you and your arms are available. Hugging is possible. They only print what is wrong. Look at each of our special editions. We always offer the things that are not wrong. We want you to benefit from them and help protect them. The dandelion is there by the sidewalk, smiling its wondrous smile, singing the song of eternity. Listen, you have ears that can hear it. Bow your head. Listen to it. Leave behind the world of sorrow and preoccupation and get free. The latest good news is that you can do it.
You may not know, but Celeste actually selected that chant for us and led it beautifully, so thank you so much. Thank you. The day my mother died, Ty wrote in his journal, a serious misfortune of my life arrived, and I suffered for more than 1 year after the passing away of my mother. But one night, in the highlands of Vietnam, I was sleeping in the hut in my hermitage, and I dreamed of my mother. I saw her sitting with me, and we were having a wonderful talk. She looked so young and beautiful, her hair flowing down. It was so pleasant to sit there and talk to her as if she had never died. And when I woke up, it was about 2 in the morning, and I felt very strongly that I had never lost my mother. The impression that my mother was still with me was very clear, and I understood then that the idea of having lost my mother was just an idea. It was obvious at that moment that my mother was always alive in me. I opened the door and I went outside. The entire hillside was bathed in moonlight. It was a hill covered with tea plants, and my hut was set up halfway up behind the temple. Walking slowly in the moonlight through the rows of tea plants, I noticed my mother was still with me. She was the moonlight, caressing me as she had done so often. Very tender, very sweet, wonderful. Each time my feet touched the earth, I knew my mother was there with me. I knew this body was not mine, but the living continuation of my mother and my father and my grandparents and my great-grandparents, all of my ancestors. Those feet that I saw as my feet were actually our feet. Together, my mother and I were leaving footprints in the damp soil. And from that moment on, the idea that I had lost my mother no longer existed. All I had to do was look at the palm of my hand, or feel the breeze on my face, or the earth under my feet, and remember that my mother is always with me, available all the time. From No Death, No Fears by Thich Nhat Hanh. What happens when someone dies? It's really a part of the human condition and has been a part of it since the beginning of our history. There are so many beliefs that have arisen as an answer to what happens to that essence of the human being after the body stops living. Is there an afterlife? Is there an eternal blessing or an eternal curse? Is there a transference of energy within the universe that can be neither created nor destroyed? Is there nothing? As Unitarian Universalists, we have no single teaching and no doctrine that you must believe in an answer to that age-old question. It is, as the Reverend Rod Richards, former minister of the Sky Island Unitarian Universalist congregation, wisely imparts, what you believe is so important to us that we will not dictate it to you. Instead, as a people, we teach that we are engaged in life in a loving relationship, a covenant of the here and now. Bounded in love, our many covenants name how it is that we will live together, move together as a Unitarian Universalist faith community like this one, or the community of our many associated congregations. Held in the web of covenantal relationship, when a death comes among us, we mourn, we celebrate. Not because we know an answer to what occurs to one's soul when the body dies, but because we know what happens to us, what happens to the living after a death occurs. We might be afraid together for a while, and we might grieve together, but we will celebrate. We will celebrate the love that we have shared. We stay in those relationships with those who have passed, in a sacred and loving and ongoing relationship, a covenant with those who have died. Yes, the personal relationship is different. It's changed, but it is still loving. So let's be afraid together. Let's grieve together so that we might celebrate together as a process of mourning and learning that in covenant, despite death, we are still together. Death may stop our bodies being present to another's body, but it cannot strip the love we have that we share in one another's lives. It cannot stop love. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh, Thai, believed in reincarnation. In Buddhism, reincarnation is a cycle, a rebirth of life after a death. Thai's facet of Buddhism, the Zen tradition in Vietnam, acknowledges those teachings but does not emphasize them over living in the present moment. That is, Zen says, do not be concerned with the past or with the future, with your past births or future rebirths. Now is the moment to be awake and to be aware to the miracle of living. In Thai's own words, we cannot conceive of the birth of anything. There is only continuation. Please, look back even further, and you will see that you not only exist in your father and in your mother, but you also exist in your grandparents and in your great-grandparents. As I look more deeply, I can see that in a former life, I was a cloud. This is not poetry. This is science, Thai teaches. Why do I say that in a former life I was a cloud? Because I am still a cloud, because without a cloud, I cannot be here. I am the cloud, the river, the air at this very moment. And so I know that in the past, I have been a cloud, a river, and the air. I was a rock. I was the minerals in the water. This is not a question of the belief in reincarnation. This is the history of life on earth. We have been gas and sunshine and water and fungi and plants. We have been single-celled beings. The Buddha said that in one of his former lives, he was a tree. He was a fish. He was a deer. These are not superstitious things. Every one of us has been a cloud, a deer, a bird, a fish, and we continue to be these things, and not just in our former lives. Thai called this teaching interbeing, and it goes well and far beyond our own seventh principle, that we affirm and promote that we are part of the interdependent web of all existence. You see, our teaching names the deep dependence that each of us has with ancestors and nature and the universe simply to exist. It is an interdependence of all individual and singular beings. But Thai's teaching of interbeing shifts away from that to oneness. We are one with our ancestors. We are one with nature. We are one with the universe. Everything requires everything else simply to exist, for this moment to be present to us. The history of the universe has occurred, and it will continue to unfold, but we are here now. We exist as one. We are one. And he taught a mindfulness meditation, so this teaching is always present, that no matter what we do, driving a car, washing dishes, brushing teeth, or struggling for justice, we are one. And awakened to oneness, the experience of being human, of being alive, becomes joy and wonder and freedom. Awakening to interbeing, life is love. The brilliant feminist writer and social activist Bell Hooks wrote that Thich Nhat Hanh has been a presence in my life as a teacher and a guide for more than 20 years. We had never met or spoken to one another, yet his work was ever present in my life. And I know this is echoed in many of your experience of his writings. But Bell Hooks did eventually meet Thai and shared their encounter in her essay, Building a Community of Love. In the course of their meeting, they spoke of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which is an important influence on both of them. MLK was among us as a brother, as a friend, as a leader, Thai related to her. He was able to maintain that love alive. When you touched him, he was a bodhisattva in Buddhism, the one who returns and returns until all are liberated. MLK's understanding and love was enough to hold everything for him. And he tried to transmit his insight and his love to the community, but maybe we have not received enough of it because we clung to him as a person. We did not bring the essence of what he was teaching into the community. And so now that he's no longer here, we are at a loss. We have to be aware that the crucial transmission that he was making was not the transmission of power or authority or of position, but the transmission of love. The essence of MLK, his teachings and his life, in Thai's Buddhist beliefs, is love. MLK is active, justice-seeking love, not a person, but the existence of the entire universe of love. And it lives on then after the individual's death, a gift to all who would, through his essence and example, create justice today. And so we can and we do get caught up in the power and authority and position of a single person. Of course we do. And so that when they have died, we grieve. Of course we do. But if we act as if their gift to us is gone, then our loss is double. Thai tells us it's a mistake that we can correct. The body may have died, but the love lives on in the oneness of interbeing. This means that when someone dies, that you have loved, and who has loved you. That their smile and their laughter and their wisdom, their struggle for justice and liberation, it lives on in you. It means that you will be here in this place among these people well after your own end. It means that I will be here long after I've gone, always present in love. And it means, even if you have never met or spoken with Thich Nhat Hanh, it means that if you have never even heard of him before today, that his essence is with you in this moment, in his gift of enduring love. And you can feel that, Thai's presence, right now, if you would like. In a moment, I'm going to pass out cards based on his writings about everyday life. One for each of you, shuffled, so who knows what you will get. Now, I do want them back. So when you're done with them, just put them back on the altar. But receive this card for you, just you. For those of you joining via live stream, I have chosen a card just this morning and written that up, and that will go up on the screen for all of you, or those of you listening to a recording at some other time. This is the essence. These are words just for you. Let us be open to the love. All of those who are gone are with us now. They are here in our bodies, in the presence of our hearts. We are one in the essence of love. In love, we find joy in this moment, then, in celebrating the life of Thich Nhat Hanh. In love, we find wonder in his outgoing teachings, his ongoing part of our lives that brings us to life in this moment. In love, we have the freedom to choose how we will be today. You can choose to be a blessing to others in that deep covenant, or you can choose to be a curse. We won't dictate it to you. Each of us must decide from our awareness of the interbeing of life how we will bring our own soul alive to others and to nature and to our world that so desperately needs people who are awake and alive. In love, may we choose, individually and as a community of faith, to be alive in this moment and alive well beyond it and even beyond the end of our own days. May it be so, because we choose for it to be so.
Thank you for those words, Reverend Matthew. Please rise now in body or spirit and join us in singing number 183, The Wind of Change, Forever Blown.
Most people are afraid of suffering, but suffering is a kind of mud to help the lotus flower of happiness grow. There can be no lotus flower without the mud.
please join me now in saying our chalice extinguishing. We Cannot Extinguish the Love by Reverend Greg Ward. And I'm going to ask Reverend Matthew to extinguish our chalice. We have come to share the loss we have felt in Thai's passing, and some examples of the joy we carry from his life. This we have done. But before we extinguish this chalice, let us acknowledge that we will not, that we cannot extinguish the love he showed us, or the memory of him, or the love we carry forward. This congregation and many other lives have absorbed so much life from Thai. This congregation will continue to reflect that light into the lives of the people who enter your doors, even those who come years from now. May we always be able to see that light as it is reflected in all we do, and remember and smile, knowing his light is shining from us too.
In the days to come, you will catch sight of Thai in the moments and the movement of love around you. You will see him in the actions of strangers, and the smile of friends, and the laughter of family. But most of all, you will witness him inside yourself, in your love and your actions and your deeds, in your smile and your laughter. This is how Thai lives on through us, because we will never forget that he lived. And so as we close, I offer you the words of the poet Mary Oliver. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing that your own life depends on it. And when the time comes, to let it go. Let it go. Thai, we let you go. Not from the embrace of our love, but from this life, that you may be freed of all earthly bindings, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. May you be free to know the eternal in joy and in peace and in everlasting love. And so we go in quietness now, to live with one another and the blessings and the peace that passes all understanding. We go now to be awake and aware and alive. We go now to love.